is basically a CDI game for the PS3. We're going to get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I really hope you guys like anime. So we're going to skip the save and we're going to get married tomorrow. So congratulations, we are Zach. And we're going to see our wife Toki, and we're just going to have a tea party with some of her friends right before the wedding.
I wish we could just...
Alright, that's our wife Toki. That's us, Zach. And right now we're just going to be talking to her friends. Right now I have to do a very important menu, and I have to tell my wife what to call me.
How about you call me Daddy?
Excellent. So, now with that menu out of the way, we can go on with the rest of the game. Also press D to dab on Winterhof's speedrunning quote-unquote career, by the way. Now, we are just going to get wed. It's going to be a pretty simple wedding, and unfortunately ninjas are going to show up and stab our wife. Our wife, Pyra, will immediately turn into Mithra, and she'll transform back into Pyra again. She'll go back in time 6 months into the past, but the problem is she brought us into the past with her. So our body isn't presently with our wife Toki, and we end up going into the body of our dragon pet Drake, but we don't care about Drake's soul, so let's not just think about that right now. Alright, I know that's a lot to take in, but let's just breathe. Let's just breathe right now, alright? Okay, if anyone is as confused as I am, I mean, I've played this game like 20 times and I still don't know what's going on. In fact, Toki has a couple of words to say.
have to think this through.
Toki! Hey, Toki! Oh, I can't get her to notice me.
Same, dude. Honestly, so, oh wait, we have a random battle. I hope you guys like the HUD because I'm not going to show it. So, yeah, the cool thing about this game is that you can turn on and off the HUD at will. I'm just going to show off and, -3 by the way. I'm just going to show off and turn it off for a little bit.
Find out who ordered the attack, and I should be able to save him. I have to do this. He's totally helpless back there in the future. I'm ready.
Alright, cool. You guys want to see how to dodge? All we have to do is press left or right on the left analog stick and we dodge. So, as you guys notice, this game takes place in real time. It's pretty much Lightning Returns the Animation, the abridged series. So, we're going back and to our house, and we're going to find out who assassinated us. Conveniently, we think it's this guild called the Assassin's Guild. Now, since we know who is attacking us, we're going to go to a back alley and beat them up. Makes sense so far, right, guys? Right? Alright, so now we're going to fight some assassins, and these assassins, well, they deny that they've done anything wrong. But we're going to show you a good fight for once, and we'll show you how the battle system is supposed to go, and I left the back alley. Alright, so now we're going to show the fight against Linus and Lucy, the two assassins. I'm going to turn on the HUD this time so no one is completely lost. And I'm just going to press circle, because we don't really have anything right now. So if you look at the top left corner of your screen, we have the SP bar. That bar is basically our skill reserve. We fill it up, we can use skills that deal a lot of damage. Right now we don't have any skills, so all we can do is our basic attack. You guys like this game so far? I just want to mention this is a PS3 game released in 2013. Honestly, I don't even have to talk during battles because the banter is just so good, and there's so many good jokes in that banter, so that gives me time to focus without actually detracting from this commentary. Also, I have to mention that every time we level up, we transform into Toa. So Toa is this super-powered, well, the melee version of Toki, and she has a knife. So she's basically budget Mithra, honestly. So now we have skills, and we're going to show you a fight with skills. All we do is press up, and we charge her.
No, I'm definitely not. I'm only doing it because Boss told me to. And she went completely all out. You're up, Linus. Avenge me. What?
I think Palmer just cursed me. He's saying all our runners come in underestimate. I'm pretty sure I'm going to come in overestimate because I'm going to be beaming hard. I love you, Palmer.
Wouldn't it be awesome if I actually won? First, Lucy got running up to me.
All right. Yep.
So now that we've dealt with the two assassin cronies, we're going to be dealing with Ricardo. Ricardo seems to be the head honcho because he has the biggest sword out of the group, but I also don't know why he wears the mask, but let's just not think about it right now.
I'm not like the two of you. Don't think you can cast me aside with such ease. To ease your journey into hell, I should give you money.
I don't want it.
Come now, take my name and engrave it onto your very self. You may call me.
So we're going to have a fatal attack chance. The fatal attack chance is kind of like an anime style finisher attack. There's one. It's pretty cool. I'm going to be showing them off. It is a time loss, but it is a guaranteed kill on any enemy that I use an FAC on. So I'm going to be using that for safety. Some of them get really funny. Some of them are actually kind of cool, which is kind of a shame, actually. But now it turns out that Ricardo isn't the assassin. He's actually an assassin fanboy. Ricardo, also the biggest simp in 2012, fight me, is largely the cause of the problem of Chapter 1. His affection for Toki and Towa end up getting him in more trouble more often than not. Now, at this point in the game, we're actually going to fight the assassins, and they're on 3 different islands. So we saw a little bit of the overworld navigation when we were going through the forest, but now we're going to see the navigation proper. If you look on the top left corner of the screen, you're going to see a small bar that is increasing. That is your encounter meter, and once that fills up, you get into a random encounter. So random encounters are in some sense fixed. It's kind of like Legend of Dragoon, if you've ever played that. And here we pick up an item called the Witch's Headband, which will increase our magic attack in exchange for a physical damage loss. For all of the random battles we encounter, we're just going to be running away from them, so... Back. Okay, someone made a good point. Some of the maps look really cool. They're actually not that bad. They're just a little bit large, in my opinion, but I'll get into a very formal review when we have to do a 10-minute grinding session in Chapter 3. That's about an hour in. So right now, we picked up an item called the Spicy Candy, and the Spicy Candy reduces the rate at which the encounter gauge increases. We're not going to use it here because we don't want to lose its effects too early, so we're going to use it the next area we go into. So we're going to be taking about 2 more escapes, and escapes we want to minimize, and random encounters in general, because when we escape from fights, that's about 3% of our liquid gold lost per escape. So that becomes a problem later in the run when we start getting a lot more money from quests, but right now we don't really need to think about it. Oh boy, Adamanchi is coming in with a fight in words, Toa greater than Toki, fight me. Well, you as an audience have a chance to prove that. So, after Chapter 2, starting in Chapter 2, I'm going to give you chapter by chapter recaps to see who likes Toki and who likes Toa, because this is very important for an endgame menu. But because Linus and Lucy are Assassin's fanboys, they pretty much copy everything the Assassins do, so we already know how Silencio is going to fight.
Now tell me what you know.
So it turns out the assassin that we just fought, Silencio, says that there is no hit on the Royal Wedding. We think that she just has a lot of loyalty for a hired gun, so I think she's just trying to cover her tail. But we're not really sure right now, so we're gonna go back, get some quest rewards, because we want to get something called gift points, or GP. What gift points are basically the skill point resource. We need to learn a couple of skills throughout this game. So the earlier we get 2 skills, Bolt Magician for Toa and Flame Magician for Toki, so much the better, because that is our greatest source of damage in the first part of the run. Alright, now we can see the effects of the spicy candy. And if you'll notice, the encounter gauge is much slower to rise now, so that's very helpful.
Holy crap.
Yes, Toa is the blonde, and Toki is the redhead. Conveniently, Toki is voiced by, I believe, Rina-chan in the English dub, and Christina V is Christina V is the voice of Toa.
It's all over for them.
Oh, really?
Drake, if you're getting tired, you can head home anytime. Toki would be crushed if you got hurt.
Wow. Tony's actually pretty thoughtful. But I can't head back now. I have to stay by Toa's side.
I mean, the banter is really good in this game, so I'm probably going to be scaling back a little bit on the commentary.
Assassins.
But overall, this game is about family. And, well, marriage as well. It turns out one of the head writers was, I think, engaged at this time and was about to be married. So a lot of the dialogue is partially inspired by his marriage. I also just want to point out that this game managed to predict a love triangle that is in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 between a redhead and a blonde that share the same body, that are both trying to get affections towards the blue-clad character, and that is also the self-insert. Drake is not voiced by Johnny Yong Bosch. He is voiced by the same voice actor who did Dust from Dust the Elysian Tale. This is the next assassin, Kuye. Kuye ate something weird, and he just can't stop talking about it. So he ate this thing called the Babbleberry, and apparently that grants anybody who eats it the gift of gab.
For what you know.
How can you possibly blame this on us?
It's a fine day for battle, wouldn't you say?
Glad to see you up for a little chit-chat in a situation like this.
I used to be very mean, very quiet, until I took a bite of something called a babbleberry.
Dabbleberry?
It's a fruit that makes you super talkative when you eat it. It's pretty incredible. It allows any creature to speak in human tongues at the first bite.
Any creature? That means if I could get my hands on that berry, I'd be able to talk too.
So this is actually a pretty cool FAC, and I wanted to show this one off specifically.
Now let me tell
Now prepare to be disappointed with every FAC from here on out.
Yep, as expected. Stronger and stronger.
Oh wait, did I show off the transformation sequence?
Let's do our best. Okay.
Alright, cool. I'm also picking up these things called Condor Wings, which instantly teleport us back to the world map. I'm going to be picking up a lot of these throughout the game.
So there's no
Now, I'm pretty sure some of you at home are thinking, this game is going to be a little bit difficult because we can only change between Toki and Toa at every level. We're going to be picking up an item very soon called a pepper, which lets us bypass that. Peppers are very rare, and we only use 3 in this run, but I'm going to be picking up 4 just to be safe. You can't purchase peppers anywhere in the game, you can only find them out in the field, and they are only very few of them through every playthrough of the game. Unfortunately, there are no camera options for the battle. This game is jank, and it wouldn't be jank otherwise if I could turn that off. I deeply apologize for that. I mean, as much as I want to be funny, like, that is something I'm truly unable to change. There are options. It's mostly just cutscene skip, you know, your sound effects, your voice volume. But the interesting about that is, for cutscene skip, you have to watch the cutscenes first, but the speedrun.com leaderboard says that you just have to start from a new game proper. You don't have to play the new game and watch all the cutscenes. So you do get a little bit of an advantage by having system data that you've watched all the cutscenes on, but really it's kind of just standard to have all the cutscenes watched when you attempt a run for Time and Eternity. Like, I'm probably the only runner here who does that. I'm the only American runner, to my knowledge. Going to menu up first, just do a quick check on equipment. Okay. I'm being a little bit cautious here because this is the first fight where they teach you about enemy attack patterns and how to fight around them. I'm also going to be quiet for this fight because this is one of my favorite dialogues in the game.
I am guild member number 12.
I remembered and everything.
If you know anything about the attack planned on the royal wedding, tell me right now. Guess we have no choice but to fight.
With pleasure.
So if he's number 12, that must mean there are at least 11 other members.
Oh yeah, good point.
Not exactly.
Huh?
Many positions available. Currently accepting applications. You may even skip the written application phase. What do you say?
There's no way I would. That was awesome!
Alright, so now let's get back to the plot. It turns out all 3 of the assassins have said that there is no hit on the royal wedding. Ricardo doesn't believe this, so he's going to try and confront the leader of the assassins directly. This is just going to get us in more trouble because it seems like we're rumor mongering, we're just causing trouble because we feel like it. I mean, it's like we're doing a really bad Minority Report that just happens to be localized and written by Statelight or something. I don't know, guys. But, I mean, this is the whole, at least, theme of Chapter 1. Oh, shoot. the whole theme of Chapter 1 is, really, we went back to the past, and really we're just causing more trouble than we are actually solving problems. So, the real lesson to be learned is, if you want to make things right, don't go back to the past, I think. So, I guess that's a lesson to learn.
Ricardo.
I mean, this game was localized by NIS, so you have that.
Man.
Alright, so at this point in the run, we're saying, alright, I think we've caused enough trouble for the day. Let's just find the Babbleberry and let's figure out what Drake is trying to say. So I didn't tell you this, but right now what Drake sounds like to everybody around Drake is the sound of a bird chirping. So we just need the voice, or we need the Babbleberry to give Drake's voice back. But before that, we're going to enter a few menus. So we have a lot of money right now, and we want to spend all of that so that way we don't have to deal with...
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for...
Excellent. So we want to make sure we spend all of our money whenever we get the chance, because we don't want to lose all of that money when we escape from a fight. Oh, this is one of my favorite dialogues in the game, and I used a Condor Wing again. I did this in practice run, and I knew I was going to do it right now. So, yes, this is the same developer as Seventh Dragon. I wanted to use a spicy candy, not a Condor Wing. I can menu around that, so that's perfectly fine.
Man, this place is huge.
Once we get past here, we'll be in the Southern Canyon, where babbleberries grow wild and free. But I can tell there's gonna be some tough enemies along the way. Alright, let's do this!
If I knew how big this place was gonna be, I would have packed myself a lunch.
She's totally nonchalant.
Rice balls, sausage links, chicken nuggets.
I want to try every last bit of Toki's cooking.
Omelets. Here comes Toki!
This game is largely just a pretty game. I will explain... Oh, we missed the eggs line!
So much food.
Alright, that's...
No matter, all eggs
Alright,
are okay. I want all her.
there was a moment where Toki was just talking about all different kinds of eggs, and this game, which was released in 2012 in Japan, somehow predicted Budabra that happened in 2014. So, long story short with Budabra, some guy on a fitness forum decided to eat 50 eggs in one sitting. After 2 hours, he ate 50 eggs, which by the way is about 3,000% of your daily intake of cholesterol, and he claimed that he was having heart trouble at the end of it all. I don't know how that game predicted that, or all of the eggs, but there you have it. I'm thoroughly convinced that this game is somewhat prophetic, but that's just me having played this game way too many times.
I won't let you ruin our wedding! Let's get out of here!
Yeah, chat raises a good point. She's old enough to be wed, so I think it's fine. I mean, look, if you guys like want to see this similar camera angle, just play The Third Birthday on the PSP. That game has a lot in common with Time and Eternity. in that it's also a game about time travel, but what Time and Eternity does right, which is make fun of everything, the Third Birthday does wrong because it takes that sense of time travel and that story of time travel completely seriously, so nothing makes sense and you're not laughing. So, I mean, there you have it. Up next is the Southern Canyon, which is also one of my favorite dialogue. It has one of the favorite dialogue in the game as well.
At last, the Southern Canyon.
The battleberries must be around here somewhere. Come on, Drake.
You got it. Man, I'm finally gonna be able to talk again. Toki's gonna lose her mind when she finds out it's me.
I wonder what you have to say, Drake.
What do you want me to say?
I can only imagine how funny you must be. I always have a great time with you around.
What, do you guys not like the camera angle? Because I can just do this. Alright, problem solved, right, guys?
Stop laughing the second you start talking.
Okay, let's not raise that bar too high now.
I bet you're even funnier than all those. Here comes Toki.
I did not expect quite so much out of me from the get-go.
This game is a fever dream. That's all I'm gonna say. So right here we are picking this item called the Frost Driver. This is an accessory that sells for 1,050 gold. For reference, the two weapons that I picked up here, the Stone Cutter and the Stone Blaster, both sell for 400 each. So picking up the Frost Driver is very important for the money route. See, I'm telling everyone that this game is a CDI game that just somehow got ported to the PS3. I'm also convinced that when they were making this game, Mikage said, I think it would be a great and funny idea if we just make a CDI game for the PS3. Like, I just don't know how to explain this game, honestly. What's weirder to explain is that the loading screen art that you see is actually Vofan, and he did the art for the Monogatari series. So they brought some, like, A-list talent into this game, and this is the result. Also, the general frames are... They're animated by Statelight, and if you don't know who Statelight is, they did Symphogear. And Symphogear is very infamous for having a shoestring budget. Too many cooks.
I made lunch. We should make time to eat it while we're traveling.
Oh, that's right. Toki cooking food for us is a mechanic. So, let me explain. When Toki cooks food for us, she gives us an item called Fine Meals. Fine Meals at endgame are the best healing item in the game because they're percentage-based, but for the purpose of this run, they're pretty bad, but I use them for money. And they sell for quite a bit, so... Also, it's worth noting that the world record attempt that I have for this game has, like, terrible echo and terrible audio, so I think that's also part of the joke.
So, this is the Assassin's Guild's headquarters.
Ricardo should be around here somewhere. Let's go.
So just to catch everyone up on the story, our best simp of 2012 decided to charge into the Assassin's headquarters all by himself, so now we have to clean up his mess. Please don't do this.
Well, now
You're just making the past worse, which is going to make the present worse and subsequently make the future even worse.
Sure did.
that's pretty embarrassing. Oh well, I need to just put all that behind me.
Alright, so coming up next is MiniBOSS. This is the second hardest fight in the game, largely because I have to follow a very strict pattern. Thankfully, MiniBOSS has a lot of funny lines, so I can just focus, but this fight is very difficult. Mokapuyo, the original world record holder, has a much more aggressive strat, and I simply, for the life of me, cannot get good as he can. So I have to opt for a much safer, much slower method. So you're going to see that method coming up very soon. This is honestly a Dark Souls of anime games, if I'm being serious. So I'm going to be turning on the HUD for this fight because I want you to see just what I'm doing with my SP generation, what I'm doing when I counter attacks, what I do when I hit, when I charge, and specifically when I cast my spells. So largely this game can explain itself, but I will also explain it when we do have some more downtime. So for MiniBOSS, what we have to do is balance dodging his attacks, because he does about 800 health worth in damage, and we only have about 2.4k, well, health worth in... We have only 2.4k health, that's it. So on top of this, we have to make sure all of our skills are good. Okay, just gonna use an item. Okay. I think we're ready to go. If not, I do have a safety save lined up for this. I have 8 safety saves lined up for this game in case I make a mistake, so we should be covered. Three, four. So I'm going to be using my rifle attack to build up as much SP as I can. Dodge when he uses a magic attack. He's going to repeat the same pattern for a couple of times, so I want to rebuild my SP. Next up, he's going to use his Gatling guns. Going to guard again and use Gatling guns. Hopefully this works. Yes, it does.
Because of us. Because we came back from the future.
That makes it sound like we're responsible for the attack.
I can see how you could come to that conclusion. What's going on here? First things first. Now that he is planning the attack, we have to take him down.
Yeah, we can't lose now.
Alright, excellent. That is a really tough boss for me, so I had to be really careful. But really what you want to do is balance his attacks, dodge them, and start casting when he casts Eclipse, because that gives you the biggest time window for you to cast Flare undisturbed.
It's finally a...
But the Assassin's Leader is a robot, because what better and more efficient assassin than a robot, right? Anyway, we go back to the present, not to the future. But hopefully what we've done will prevent assassins from murdering us at our wedding. Right, chat? Let's just have a nice wedding. Let's just not think about all this weird timey-wimey stuff. So when we go back to the future, or no, go back to the present, my mistake. We have our wedding, but the problem is Reijo decides to stab us. Reijo is the brown-haired girl who is talking to Toki, and Reijo is Toki and Toa's best friend. We go back 3 months ago, but we don't know where we are. In fact, I'm so confident with this chapter that I will do the rest of this chapter unarmed. So, this is going to be really fun, and this is going to get really weird. But in terms of gameplay, this is the most really boring part of the speedrun. The story does go off the rails here, and this chapter is one gigantic elaborate joke. So, right now, we don't know what's happening. We just know that Reijo stabbed us, Toki panicked, we're somewhere 3 months in the past.
We have to get out of here.
Yeah, and Toa says it pretty simply, we just have to get out of here.
Let's hurry up and get back to Kamsa.
Huh? Is Toa scared?
It's an endearing character trait, guys.
I don't know. I was in a rush to get to another when. I wasn't paying attention to where.
It's actually a really good line now that I think about it.
If you recall, I already told you when you are.
Who's talking?
Ah! They're coming to get us.
Come on now, Toa. It's just me. Calm down.
Oh, it's you. Don't scare me like that.
Huh? It's who?
My hourglass.
Your hourglass?
See, perfectly normal, guys. All we have to do is just get out of the forest, and we'll be safe.
Hourglass ghost?
Yep, that's me. I'm a ghost. The hour of your death is close at hand. Come on. You think I would waste even a second on you if I was a ghost, let alone an hour?
Okay, geez, calm down.
So for being serious here, I would very strongly recommend it against this game. This game is weird, largely because there's a lot of grinding. This one fight in particular I do not want to get hit by because once Crypt Keeper charges to you, it will not stop until you hit
Pretty talkative.
0 health. So there is no way to get out of it. This is why I also unequip all of my equipment, so in case I do mess up and Crypt Keeper has to kill me, it's going to be a lot faster.
So
But
3 months before the wedding.
back to my recommendation of this game, I don't recommend this game as a casual run because it's far too grindy. The battle system is very clunky, and really the only strong thing the game has is its story, and I personally can't recommend a game that has bad gameplay and good story. Well, you're implying that this story is any good.
Like we'll have
I mean, it's funny, but I don't know if it's any good.
It looks an awful lot like whoever attacked our wedding.
Crypt Keeper was the brown plant thing that attacked us in the previous random battle. But in this part of the run, I'm really worried with the money route because you've noticed that every random battle I've escaped from, I've lost probably 25 up to 30 gold as a consequence. I factored this in the run, but if I run away from any more fights, this is going to be a problem, especially because I used a Condor Wing when I shouldn't have. For this section of the run, I'm going to be picking up a lot of items, and most importantly, this item called silver ingots. As I've mentioned before, running away from fights causes us to lose 3% of our liquid assets. So picking up items like silver ingots, which sell for 500 gold, those don't depreciate in value. So I want to pick as many of them up so that way I can stockpile my money in a safer method that doesn't disappear when I run away from fights.
A ghost that can be destroyed is no ghost at all.
True. I guess if you think of it that way, they're just like any other enemy. They're still strange creatures, though.
Everything should be fine.
Up next, we are going to unlock something called a waypoint. So these waypoints are checkpoints throughout the game, and we can access them from the world map. We're going to be coming back to this area very soon for a small side quest.
Nothing can compare.
Have you said your goodbyes?
If you guys think the music is familiar, the composer who did the Etrian Odyssey series and the Streets of Rage series had a hand in making the music for this game. There are a total of 9 sick tracks for this game, so including the title menu, the credits, and the special song that plays when you enter Time Magic.
Anyway,
There are a total of 9 songs for a PS3 game.
Don't know.
Just want you guys to think about that for a minute.
I just can't believe it. Are you sure it was really Rejo?
I'm absolutely certain it was her.
I mean, it's the same guy who did the Etrian Odyssey series, so at least you get a couple bangers. Alright, quick check. Who has the better battle theme, Toki or Toa? Press 1 for Toki, press 2 for Toa.
Look, I see someone.
Should we ask for directions?
Hey, is
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Toa has a better battle theme. At this point in the run, it looks like Rejo has been smuggling cakes from Ricardo to Makimona. We don't know why, but we're gonna talk to Makimona. Makimona is this witch from the town of Apparition, and right now she doesn't trust us. So, just like any good JRPG, in order to get her trust, we have to do some quests for her. And these quests are pretty simple fetch quests. The first quest, I just have to talk to someone in that area where we set up the waypoint. And then we finish that quest and also complete Makimona's demand that we help someone around Apparition. So, mismenued. I made a mismenu, so I'm just going to go back to the world map. This doesn't lose that much time. It's only a few seconds. Thankfully, I'm playing on the PSN version on an SSD, so load times are much faster. If you watch Mokopuyo's run, which uses the Japanese disc, it's much slower. This is one of the very few moments where the English version is much faster because the English version had a digital download on the PSN. Whereas the Japanese version, I'm not sure if they had one, but for some reason in 2015, the digital version of Time and Eternity was delisted from the PSN, so we can no longer get this game on the PSN. Now that we gained some of Makimona's trust, it turns out that Rejo made this deal with this being called the Nether Drake, and for whatever reason, Rejo wants out of that deal. So,
Thanks for coming.
excellent. So what we're going to do next is go to Rejo and Nether Drake and pretty much give a intervention to Rejo, because we are kind of worried about her. We don't want her to go through all of this herself, so we want to be friends to her, and our friendship with Rejo is what truly matters to Toki and Toa, so we just want to be the best possible friends and help her through all of this tough times. This is the longest stretch of running the game where I just walk, so
Finally.
there's really nothing much to talk about aside from
People in Apparition or that forest.
the story, but I think we're relatively caught up.
So,
But
we're pretty scared, huh?
I never said that.
we can talk about Toa as a character.
So you would have
Toa is the more aggressive version of Toki.
Better off having you there with
She has this odd quirk where she gets scared by things like spiders, spooky things.
See the dragon alone. She's completely
That's
fearless.
really all we know of Toki and Toa right now.
seems possible.
not even thinking of the fact that they both share a body.
Makimona said
Drake is just as lost as everyone else in chat, by which I mean we don't know why Toki and Toa have a body. For all we know, it's just a gameplay mechanic, but it does start to come to light towards the end of the game.
not even close. Retreat.
I mean, for now, we can just kind of relax and chill. I've been a little bit nervous running this game and just preparing for this game in general, so let's just take a moment to relax, chill, look at some of the scenery, maybe just look up, just look at the clouds. Let's just hope just hope we don't run into any, like, small invisible gaps that are just gonna make us stuck. Just have fun, guys. Next, I can probably talk about the item called the Spicy Candy. As I've mentioned before, the Spicy Candy is an item that reduces the encounter rate. What's interesting is that whenever we go from area to area, there's some sort of check the game does to see if you've used enough of the Spicy Candy and its duration.
She never acted like
On very short maps, you can go to 2 areas and still be under the effect of Spicy Candy. On very large maps, you
Why is Rage
watch it
next to Makimona?
expire.
managed to avoid touching
But that's something interesting with Spicy Candy and something that I haven't seen replicated in any Image Epic game. I say, and I use the qualifier in any Image Epic game because Image Epic has a tendency to reuse a lot of its mechanics from game to game. The filling up of an encounter bar is similar in all the 7 Dragon games, and also Soul Trigger and Saigo no Yakusoku no Monogatari. This combination of real-time combat and real-time dodging is similar to the PSP game The Last Ranker, which was released in 2010, and a more action and much cleaner version of this game can be found in Black Rock Shooter the game, which was released in 2013. The thing about me as a runner is that I know too much about Image Epic. I've played, not beaten, mind you, but I've played almost all of Image Epic's games. It's honestly a curse at this point, and I have the bizarre need to explain all of this to all of the viewers out here on MiniBOSS 2020. So, yeah, this is Welcome to Time and Eternity. I'm Winterhof, and this is a game. Also on the PS3. They've made some pretty decent games. Seventh Dragon for the DS is pretty good, barring one part of the game. I really liked Stellar Glow. They've also done the Luminous Arc series. They've done the Fate Extra series on the PSP, and those are actually pretty solid games.
If you want to run, do it now. Not even close. I gotta. Time to go.
But yeah, if there is any one Image Epic game I will wholeheartedly recommend to you, it is Stellar Glow for the 3DS. That game is phenomenal. There is a good twist. It has a classic Image Epic twist. The fights are pretty good. Animations are skippable. There's a lot of romance options and a lot of different endings based on who you romance. So that's a pretty good game in general if you want to play an Image Epic game. They also made Yoshi's New Island for the 3DS. So if you guys like Mario, you can play Yoshi's New Island.
Now let's go find her. We have to stop Reijo from meeting with
Also, one of my other favorite games, if you know a little bit of Japanese, is Soul Trigger. That game is
Nether Drake.
really fun.
far bigger than you can imagine.
There is almost next to no grinding necessary in that game. The story is pretty good. Your choices actually matter, which is surprising for an Image Epic game. So there's a good handful of games that I like.
We found found him abandoned in the street.
So,
And there's Nether Drake. He's a pretty big dragon for us, so
look, that must be Nether Drake.
We have to hurry.
right now, Rajo and Nether Drake are in the middle of renegotiating that contract, and looks like Rajo was at the losing end of that argument, so we're just gonna pull her out and just bring her back home because we really just want to be there for her. We want to be her friend, and we want to give her the peace of mind that no matter what happens, we're there for her. So it's a really heartfelt moment that I can't quite explain through just my explanation. And this chapter in particular goes really into depth with Rajo's character that I just can't explain. Chapter 1 with Enda's arc wasn't really that deep. It was more of Ricardo and showing off that if we go back in time, you might end up making things worse than making things better. So now that we have Rajo, we're going to go back to our home in Kamsa. And it turns out the reason why Rajo has been smuggling Ricardo's cakes to Makimona is that the cakes that Ricardo makes at this point in time are so terrible that a single bite will bring you to the brink of death and will cause you to be a spiritual medium for a moment. The reason why Rajo wants to do this is because she wants to get in contact with her deceased mom in order to find that inner strength and the peace of mind to get out of that deal. I am not lying. In fact, there is a menu that says eat Ricardo's cake.
So we headed home.
But in order to prove that everything I've just told you is true, we have to regain Makimona's trust. And what better way to regain Makimona's trust than to do some side quests? This is another pretty quick side quest. I take the side quest because along the way we get a pepper. And as I've mentioned before, we need 4 peppers in order to safely progress through this game. We use those peppers to switch between Toki and Toa on the fly, and we need to do those for certain fights towards the end of the game. The area that you have to go is very often obscured by clouds, but it's there, and usually on a casual play, you have the map zoomed up, so it's a little bit easier to see. So it looks like I did some weird magic, which is par for the course of Time and Eternity, but there is an actual node there which you can go to. Up next, I'm going to be showing this item, or this little blinking beacon on the map, and this is called I believe, an affection point. In Time and Eternity, part of the mechanic is trying to prove your love to either Toki or Toa, or if you want to take the third option, try to balance the affection between both perfectly. Going to these points that you'll see on the right, which is a small heart, will increase the love of one character towards Drake, or the active character. So if I were to take that point with Toa, Toa's love for Drake would increase instead of Toki's. You can also increase the love meter by fighting more fights with a particular character, and that does help towards the end of the game. Most usually for a New Game Plus run, but for a New Game run, we don't really think about it. Yeah, pretty much. It's like Catherine, but very simplistic in that dichotomy. For the purpose of this game, running away counts as a fight. This is going to be important when we use items like a Bookworm Charm that increase the experience. See, I told you, one of these options is to eat Ricardo's cake. or you can have Drake become the medium, but we're gonna have Rajo eat the cake. I told you about the cake, guys. I told you about the cake. Next time,
With his kid. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
So right now we're going back to Kamsa to get more of Ricardo's cake because we got pretty close to talking with Rajo's mom. We just need more cake. But now with this final order of cake, we can finally get Rajo to talk to her mom long enough to find the peace of mind to get out of Nether Drake's deal. At this point in the game, Rajo explains that she was never rich to begin with. She was originally from Apparition and her mom died at a young age. By chance, Rajo, as a kid, met Toki and Toa, and Toki and Toa were so nice to Rajo that Rajo was willing to do anything just to be Toki and Toa's friend. At this time, she found Nether Drake and wished for wealth so that way she could find a way to get into Toki's inner circle. The problem is that every time...
We should discuss this Nether Drake situation more when we get back.
Uh-oh, did I miss menu? Oh. Oh, I mismenued. So originally I was supposed to use a Dragon Wing while I was in Apparition, but I just forgot. I went on autopilot. That's completely my fault. But a Dragon Wing is supposed to instantly teleport you back to your home and skip a lot of loading screens. This is more of a problem if you're running on a Blu-ray disc than on an SSD,
Enjoy it later.
but, well, you can't have everything in a marathon speedrun, so, oh well. Anyway, back to the explanation at hand. When you get a wish from Nether Drake, and in Rajo's case, she wished for wealth. When Nether Drake grants that wish, he asks for a single favor in return to be used, or to be offered in at any point at Nether Drake's choosing. Nether Drake wants Toki dead, and we don't know why.
Nether Drake's
The problem is, if Rajo goes through with this, she loses Toki and Toa as a friend because they're literally dead. But the problem is, if Rajo backs out of this deal, Nether Drake will rescind all of the money that helped Rajo get to where she is. Whoops. Oh no, I'm thinking of something too early. So, there is a problem with the contract in the sense that whatever Rajo does, she'll end up losing Toki's friendship. That's not good because it turns out that's a faulty contract, and our boy Drake says you can't really be doing that in this society. So what better way to bring Nether Drake to justice than reporting Nether Drake to the Better Business Bureau? Because as we all know, the only way to kill a dragon isn't through some magical sword, it's through an audit by a government agency. I should know this because I'm in the medical industry as well, and audits are nightmarish for us. And again, if you don't believe me, Nether Drake screams, "Not the Better Business Bureau," right when we fight him. And let's get into the fight because I've spoiled the Chapter 2 boss. The Chapter 2 boss is Nether Drake. And what Nether Drake is a variation of how we navigate on the overworld and a rail shooter. You're just gonna have to watch how I move, but the fight is a cakewalk once you know the timing. All the damage is fixed that you deal, so you don't have to worry about your equipment. But what's most important is that the hardest enemy isn't going to be Nether Drake in this fight, it's the battle system itself because the animation frames takes so much time. So what you're going to be seeing me doing in this fight is preemptively moving when Nether Drake queues up an attack.
Time to go. I'm better than I was before, but I still don't like being in places like this. But just so you know, I'm not scared. Did you hear me? I said I'm not scared. Are you listening to me? Hey! Why aren't you saying anything? What's wrong?
Chat.
Sorry, did you say something?
Yeah, I mean, chat went blank too, so I don't know what's going on, Toki. Or Toa.
What's the matter with you? Why didn't you say anything?
Sorry, I was just lost in thought, I guess.
You had me really worried.
I really am sorry. But I'll do my best when we go up against Nether Drake, I promise.
Do you have some kind of plan or something?
Well, Drake and Nether Drake both have that Drake thing in common, right? I'm just sort of hoping that he responds to some kind of...
Wait, did this game predict Hotline Bling? By Drake?
Time to go.
I'm telling you guys, this game is prophetic. I'm telling you guys, this game is prophetic. I'm telling you. Wait, did this game predict Hotline Bling? By Drake?
There he is. We found him.
He's definitely nothing...
Alright, remember what I said about the Better Business Bureau, guys? So, Drake attempts to report him to the Better Business Bureau, and he doesn't take that very lightly. In fact, he says it would be extremely bad for his business. But Nether Drake's a big guy for us, right?
If I knew he'd get this upset, I'd have gone right to that bureau in the first place.
I won't forgive you for taking advantage of Draco the way you did.
Alright, Nether Drake is giving me a pretty bad pattern. This is the only point in the run where I get RNG, and it's not good.
We can forgive and forget if you agree to cancel the agreement.
I'm afraid I can't do that. It's just how I live my life.
While the way you live your life is unacceptable.
Look down on me all you want, but I can't change the way I live.
Why not? Seriously, why can't we just change?
Well, after all is said and done, Nether Drake didn't fly so good.
You've become even more beautiful, Toby.
But now that we've shown Nether Drake a show of force, he's going to back out and say, alright, you can keep your riches, I don't care, just, we're done. So, this should deal with all the problems in the past, right? So now if we just go back to the future, everything's gonna be okay. And we can just have our wedding, right? Right?
And thus, we were...
Well, not entirely. At this point, Maki Mona decides to crash the wedding and say, look, if you get married, I want a boyfriend, otherwise I'm killing you. And, well, we go back in time, and it turns out Weddy actually predicted something like this would happen, so when we go back in time a month before, all we have to do is tell Weddy the super secret code that she's super cute, and she knows what to do. Well, meanwhile, we've got to do some quests. We've got to get this thing called the Something 4 in order to get enough power to finally stop all of this weird timey-wimey Mobius loop nonsense. The Something 4 are, and I am not joking,
So we return...
It is something new, something old, something borrowed, and something blue. In order to get the something 4, we have to meet the 4 gods, but before that, we have to level grind. And this is going to be a pretty tough part of the... This is a pretty tough part of the run because I have to count to 5 times. And my boy Adamant Cheese in the chat knows I can't count to 5 to save my life. Let alone count to 5 times.
Welcome.
So this is going to be a really big menu.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, I'm short on items, so I've got to sell some stuff. Oh, I barely have enough money for that. Alright, so the next part of this game is that we're going to be learning the skill called Gamer Time, Time Surge. What Time Surge is pretty much our bread and butter for the rest of this game. Time Surge will increase Toki or Toa's animations, and it will reduce the cast time, and we need to use this for every fight from here on out. I'm also going to be learning a bunch of skills because we need all of these skills that I'm learning for the end game. Messed up, guys. Come on. Alright, so we'll show you just how much stronger we get here. And look how fast we're going, guys. That's not good. I'm just gonna take the loss for this one. There we go, that's how that fight's supposed to go. So I accidentally forgot to menu in this one ability that gives us 20 SP. I forgot to menu that for the entirety of Chapter 2, so the first section of the grinding session is going to be a little bit rough, but what we're doing here for the next area is we're learning this ability called Time Leap. And this quest is particular in that if we never use Time Leap in that fight, which lets us rewind time, the game says, look, you can't beat this quest without using Time Leap, so we're just going to infinitely respawn this enemy again and again until you use Time Leap.
I won't let you ruin our wedding.
Alright, chat, can you help me count to 5?
I'm ready. Are you? Over here. Can't get you.
Okay, this run might be a little bit rough. If I hit 3 mistakes during this grind session, I may have to load up a safety save, because the leveling route is very precise here. So at the end of this all, I want to be level 14 with 83 experience left over. Since I've messed up the first 2 fights, I'm pretty much on thin ice, so let's just hope nothing bad happens. I didn't equip it on Toki. Okay. So, with Toa in Time Surge, she has this weird delay in her animation, so I have to be a little bit cautious when I use her attacks. Excellent. Yep, that's why I have 8 safety saves. So, if anything goes wrong, I want to show off the entirety of this game. Alright, that's fight number 2.
I'm ready to go. Let's recall prepare yourself.
Maybe I should talk about the time splinters and, well, time splinters and the time point mechanic. So normally we can only use time leap or any time magic 3 times in a row. Otherwise, we run out and we have to use an item called time splinters to replenish it. That was fight 3, by the way. This is fight 4. The way to replenish your time points are to go home or use your time splinters. So time splinters are also, I think, widely available, if I'm not mistaken. So they are bought for about 1,000 gold. So. This is going to be fight 5 if I'm not mistaken, right? Or am I off? Alright, now you're going to see how swag Toki is in this point in the game. That's how Toki's fights are supposed to look like in the grind session. But Toa's, because she has that animation delay, are a little bit slower. Okay, that was 5. Using a bookworm charm. Alright, let's do this again. So this is kind of... nothing really cool happens in this run, but if I were to mess up in this section, this has really catastrophic consequences, so I just want to be careful. There's not that much banter, so just take a relax. Take some time to relax, get a drink. Just let the plot of Chapter 3 and Chapter 2 sink in for a little bit. Just get some time to breathe, guys, because I think I need some time too.
Have you said your goodbyes?
But, yeah, this is one of the cooler songs in the game. I don't know who did the song. It's not an insert by either the Japanese voice actors for Toki or Toa. I think it's a different singer entirely. But this is one of 9 songs on the soundtrack.
I'm ready to go. Let's recall Thunder, get him.
Okay, that's the 3rd mess up. I'm going to do a check to see if I'm actually at level 14. If not, I'm going to load up that safety save. The reason why you also don't want to get hit in this run is because when Time Golem dies, it's a very long time for Time Golem to disappear up close for some reason.
I'm ready to go. Let's rock. Get him. Thunder, get him. That's it. Thunder.
I picked up the Time Splinters back in Chapter 2, and we picked up 3 of them. I'm going to be using all 3 time splinters throughout the game, and this is the first time I'll be using one of them. So when you are grinding, there is a point where you run out of time points. So you want to be sure to pick up those time splinters so that way you don't end up in a situation where you don't have time surge available to you.
Thunder Spirit. That was pretty great. I can feel it.
whenever you level up, you also replenish all your time points. So you are really relying on the level up just to get you through this grind as well.
I'm ready. Are you?
Really, if I have to describe this plot, it's that one Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff comic where they say, "I told you about the stairs, bro," and it just keeps happening. That's literally this plot. That Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff comic. But yeah,
I can do this. Are you ready to burn? Fire spirit. That was awesome.
Also, another like pitch for this game is Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the abridged series.
Here comes Toki. Are you ready to burn? Fire spirit. That was okay, I guess.
He's become even more.
What's also interesting is that if you look at the victory pose that Toki and Toa do, that's also a slight reference to Ranka Lee's Kira pose in Macross Frontier. Statelight also did the animation for that, and I think that's a reference to it.
Prepare yourself. Thunder spirit. Yep, as expected. I'm ready to go. Let's get him. In a flash. Alright, prepare yourself. Thunder spirit. Yep, as expected. Coming through. Let's do rock. Thunder spirit. Alright, miss me. Prepare yourself.
Oh, that was close. So, the slight extra bonus experience that I'm worried about, you gain from not getting hit at any point in the fight. So, I really need those 23 experience points, so that kind of gave me a heart attack. But I think we're still doing alright. We're getting close to the end of the grinding session, so we just gotta hold out for just a little bit longer, and then we can talk about this episode of Dragon Ball Z, about the something 4.
Are you ready to burn? Fire spirit. Pretty amazing. I won't let you ruin our wedding. Are you ready to burn? Fire spirit. Pretty amazing.
So for those tuning in, I'm playing Time and Eternity. Right now I'm in the grinding session, so there's not really much happening. The whole mechanic of this game is that every time you level up, you switch between your wife, who has red hair, and her alternate personality, which has blonde hair. The two characters have different properties. The red-haired character, Toki, is better at ranged attacks, whereas the blonde-haired character, Toa, is better at close-range attacks. We are getting close to the end of this grind, so towards the end of this grind, I will have to use Time Leap. And that is going to exhaust the second of my 3 time splinters that I picked up in Chapter 2.
We have to keep this up.
Right now, I'm not using close range attacks. For boss battles in Chapter 3 onwards, I will be using close range attacks.
Coming through.
And this is the last grind, so I've just got to count to 5 here, and we're good to go.
Prepare yourself. Drop and hop. Get 'em. Thunder spirit.
I mean, as you might already know, this is the part of the run where I have the most trouble with because it's a 10-minute grinding session and I don't really like it all that much. But the rest of Chapter 3 gets pretty good in terms of story and in terms of fights because we're going to see 2 very difficult fights, and the Chapter 3 boss, I say, is the hardest fight in this game. And it's going to be a pretty wild fight. Because we're going to be using a lot of mechanics that I'll be explaining closer to the fight that just happen in one 2-minute fight, and it's pretty cool to watch. In terms of execution, it's very difficult to pull off, and it's really one of the fights that I've practiced the longest in preparation for this marathon.
Ready. Are you? Rewind. Fire spirit, here it comes. Gonna get hot. That went okay, I guess.
I guess at this point I can talk about the elephant in the room. This game has dual audio. The reason why we stick to the English voice acting, besides from the jokes, are because the Japanese voice actors are very high quality. The voice actor for Makimona is the same voice actor as Catellia from Violet Evergarden. The voice actor for Drake is the same voice actor as Jude Mathis from Tales of Xillia. I believe Weddy's voice actor is the same as Euclase from Hoseki no Kuni. So, yeah, we're keeping the English voice actors just so that way things are pretty fun. But it also rewind time, by the way. Now we're going to be doing, and now we're going to be done with this grind session, hopefully. If not, I do have to load up from that safety save. But after this, we are good to go for the rest of Chapter 3 and the rest of the game. Oh, I'm level 14. Excellent. So I don't need to load up the safety save. Excellent. Alright, wait. I just want to see. 52! Yo! That is close. Alright, so we're gonna go to Makimona. So the whole thing about Makimona is that she wants a boyfriend because she's a Christmas cake. And, well, Drake promises that Drake will hook up Makimona with one of his friends, and hopefully that sates Makimona, so she'll help us get access to the 4 gods of the Something 4. So, alright chat, I'm gonna need your help because we've got a lot of audience participation coming in. The first trial is Olden's trial, and he's going to ask us some very important questions to prove our love for either Toki or Toa. So you guys ready for this? So I just want to show you one of the old gods. This is Olden. This is all I have to say. So that's Olden, one of the old gods. And he gives us a test to prove our worthiness to Toki and Toa. So, question 1, guys. Your bride-to-be has fallen unconscious. What do? Do you, 1, try mouth-to-mouth? Or 2, or do you 1, I try to talk to her? Or 2, mouth-to-mouth? 1 is I try to talk to her, 2 is do mouth-to-mouth.
That'll measure my worth as a husband.
Whatever they are. If you really are worthy, you'll pass the test with flying. This must be the first question.
Okay.
Alright, I'm seeing a lot of 2s. Turns out that was the correct answer. So for this section of the game, you really don't have to pass Olden's test. It's just there. It's just there for memes, really. So for question 2, which of the following thoughts have crossed your mind at least once? 1, when will we get to kiss? Or 2, just cancel the ceremony.
Simply put, it seems like he's looking for answers that express a man's worldly desires.
So a man with these... If you want to run, let's rewind. Time to go.
Well, that...
I see we've got a lot of people of culture here, so 1 is the correct answer. Alright, question 3, everybody. Would you like a bath first, or me first? By the way,
So there's
1 is a bath first, and 2 is me. I just want to say that this question is sponsored by RPG Limit Break, a family-friendly speedrunning event.
So I wonder what happens if I don't get 100 points.
Shout out to Liru, by the way.
Here comes question.
Turns out 2 is the correct answer. Congratulations, guys. We're doing it, guys. We're doing it, chat. Alright, question 4.
I just don't know.
Where would you like to go on your honeymoon?
Ridiculous
1,
questions.
a tropical island, or 2, a snow-covered mountain?
Something old. We still have 2 more questions to go.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of ones, so it looks like we are going to be choosing the tropical island.
Here's
Okay,
question
final
1.
question.
A tropical island.
Honestly now, which do you guys prefer? Toki or Toa? 1 for Toki, 2 for Toa, or 3 for I can't choose?
The last one's coming up.
Yep, let's go get this over with.
There are a lot of 3s in chat, so it looks like we're going to be choosing 3.
We've reached the final.
And it turns out 3 is the correct answer. So not only do we do well, we actually pass this test with flying colors. It doesn't actually mean anything, we just have 200 points out of a 100-point quiz. So we did it. So now we can get something old. Something old and all of these relics are pushed out by the old gods. There is a fate to black, and you just hear the old gods groaning before they pop out the something 4 relics.
Let's rewind.
Actually, come to think of it, did I actually go through all the dialogue options when I get a perfect score? I actually haven't gotten a perfect score, so... Oh, okay. Well, I was worried for a second, but I remembered that this is an image epic game where your choices don't really matter all that much, so we're good. We're good.
I fixed you some lunch. Let's go somewhere and enjoy it later.
Alright, next up is something new. And for this, we actually have a mini-boss coming up, which is Ainu. Ainu is going to be a foreshadowing of things to come. So, enemies are going to have a lot more health, and enemies are going to hit us hard. So we're going to be using some close range attacks by Toa in order to beat Ainu.
Welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. I wonder what the next great spirit will be like.
Next up is Ainu, and Ainu is supposed to be a play on the whole iPhone generation craze. The title card kind of just shows that to you. But here we've got to fight Ainu, and Ainu is a little bit of a difficult fight, so we want to be sure that we're prepared for this fight. I'm going to start equipping a few skills. So I equipped Stun Mastery, Slot Switch, and I equipped the skill on Toa called Rising God Slash. Rising God Slash is a melee attack that costs 70 SP and deals quite a bit of damage. What we want to do to Ainu is build up a combo. The higher we build up the combo, the more damage we deal. And Stun Mastery helps us get Ainu into a stun state where when he's in stun state, he can't attack us and he takes a lot more damage from Toki's attacks. So we definitely want stun as early as possible.
That's how all of the something 4 are created.
All we have to do to get something new is meet up with Ainu. It sounds too easy.
Yeah, I really doubt that's all there is to it.
I'm ready to go. Let's rewind. Time to go.
In this fight, you also have to deal with Time Surge running out. I believe Time Surge runs out at about 40 hits when I'm doing my pattern correctly, so I do want to be careful when Time Surge runs out, because when Time Surge runs out, our animations get a lot longer and it's much harder to maintain a high damage combo. If that combo drops, I should be safe, but it does get a little bit hairy. Okay, just one more check to make sure I have everything ready to go. I don't have everything ready to go. That skill that I added in, Dragon of Battle, commands Drake to give us an attack buff. And that's very important for damage.
If you win, you can have my something new.
Then you can be sure we're not going to go easy on you.
That's more than welcome. If I get to go all out, so much the better. What do you think of my style? It's totally new, right? Totally cutting edge. You see how new it is, right?
Messed up that timing. So, this is what happens if you let Ainu attack you. He does a spin attack, and he pretty much just blends you.
Have my something new.
Then you can be sure we're not going to go easy on you.
That's more than welcome. If I get to go all out, so much the better.
Get out of my way.
Love this new
Let's
trend.
rewind. Right there.
That's what I meant. I dropped it.
Don't you just love this new trend? Oh yeah.
There we go. Alright, That's how I knew it was supposed to go. So, I really want to maintain a combination of a high combo while I have Time Surge run out and reapply it again. That timing is about a second to a second and a half, so it's very difficult to get right, and I don't have a safety strat for this fight. But thankfully, we are good to go for the next fight. And I'll start talking about the Chapter 3 boss right now because it's a long explanation. The Chapter 3 boss fight takes advantage of... Oh, I didn't menu that in. So, I'm going to have to load up a safety save right before the Chapter 3 boss fight because I forgot to menu it in this one skill that gives me Frost. Frost is this ability that I can use in tandem with Bolt to do this mechanic called Chemistry. When you combine two elemental attacks together, you end up causing a status ailment to that enemy. In the case where we use Bolt into Frost, we cause Silence. Silence is used to prevent the Chapter 3 boss from attacking us with this unblockable magic attack that instantly kills us because of our low defense. So we don't want any of that to happen. So what we do is silence the Chapter 3 boss and use our attack pattern normally. The attack pattern that I'm using for Chapter 3 is 2 quick slashes, a pause to reset animation, 2 quick slashes again, a pause, and 2 quick slashes into a Rising Dragon. I don't want to use the third hit because the third hit is a roundhouse kick that takes a very long time. So with that pattern, hopefully I'll be able to maintain the combo high enough throughout Time Surge in order to deal a lot of damage.
What have we here?
Next up, to get the Something Borrowed, all we have to do is grave rob our ancestors' royal grave, and we get Something Borrowed. In this part of the run, I am going to use this item called a Super Spicy Candy, which completely nullifies all encounters, as opposed to a Mega Spicy Candy, which just reduces the encounter rate. The Mega Spicy Candy is 2,000 gold each, and it doesn't last nearly as long as a Spicy Candy. The reason why I use 2 Mega Spicy Candies through this part of the game is because we can afford those, and the 2 final areas of this game with a lot of walking aren't very long, and a Mega Spicy Candy lasts just long enough so that we don't see any battles. So right now we are on Chapter 3 of 4 chapters. Chapter 4 is really just a boss rush, so there's really not much there to do aside from just going from boss to boss. Thankfully, Chapter 4 is nice to us and places us right in front of every boss before we enter them. So we don't have to walk from point A to point B, only if I have to load up a safety save.
I'm a knight. Once we're married and all settled in, I'll send the knights in to take care of this place.
I should have brought some kind of offering for my visit.
Something borrowed. I wonder where we might find it.
We just
If this area looks familiar, it's more or less a cut and paste of that one area where we found the Babbleberry from in Chapter 1. So this game starts to show some of its limitations and some of its reuse of areas in general. We've already seen a lot of recolored sprites, but this area in particular is pretty egregious for how much it just reused the assets for the area where we found the Babbleberry. But now that we've found Something Borrowed, all we have to do is go back to Burrows and show Something Borrowed to her. Burrows says, alright, you're worthy of Something Borrowed, so you can temporarily have Something Borrowed. Unfortunately, something blue is not our buddy Drake. Something blue is actually just something blue. That's the best way to describe it. Okay, more accurately, something blue is just this nice, perfectly spherical ball of blue.
Here's something.
At this point in the game, Weddy has gone missing. And according to our friends back at home, she may have gone into a forest, but we don't know why. It turns out that when we go back to the past, or back at the wedding, when Makimona tried to attack Toki, Weddy managed to have a golem protect Toki from most of the blast that Makimona hit us with. At this point, it seems like she's going into the forest to try and get a contract with that golem, so that way we're safe for the wedding. Also, at this point, I do have to remember to put on a pepper. I have lost numerous runs to entering the Chapter 3 boss fight as Toki and not Toa. So I menu in the pepper now. In my practice runs, I've done it earlier, and I think in my speedrun, or my world record attempt, I did it much, much earlier. I think I did it when I was on Burrow's side quest. So I'm doing it now, even though I'm loading up a safety save, just so that way you guys get the full time and eternity, quote-unquote, experience. This is the final stretch of run where we have to walk from point A to point B, so really there's not much to talk about, but maybe I can start talking about Chapter 4, because Chapter 4, as I've mentioned before, is a boss rush, and I won't be able to talk a lot about it. So when we defeat the Chapter 3 boss, Drake and Toki come to the conclusion that we've been running in loops ever since the beginning of this game. The problem is, the whole antagonist of this series says, I'm going to keep you trapped in this Mobius loop, because the problem is, if you break out of this Mobius loop, either Toki or Toa will have to die in order for Drake to get married to either Toki or Toa. This is because Toki and Toa made a wedding vow when they were 5 years old, and that was the time they were originally two different girls. But when they made that vow, for whatever reason, they ended up sharing one body. And if we break the wedding vow made by Toki and Toa at the age of 5, which is not officially recognized in the kingdom of Kamza, if we get married to either Toki or Toa, we have to kill off Toa or Toki, respectively. This is the problem in New Game, where you can't save both Toki and Toa. In New Game Plus, if you do well and maintain your affection for both Toki and Toa, you can save both of them. So we have to choose at Chapter 4 who gets to live, Toki or Toa. And I'll make that final call out towards the end because I want the audience to participate and choose who gets to live. Sadly, we can't choose both. We can only choose one of them. I mean, for a game that doesn't take itself very seriously, it takes the plot twist and that final decision very seriously, so that comes out of nowhere.
I fixed you some lunch. I think it actually turned out pretty well.
So the final guardian is Dracois. Dracois is really just Blue Nether Drake, and all he really wants is just some cake from Ricardo. I don't know why all of these characters in this game want cake from Ricardo, but, well, he wants cake from Ricardo, so we're gonna have to find Ricardo and get one of his cakes. If you've been following the game since Chapter 2, Ricardo's cakes are pretty bad. They're almost lethal in some cases. But Draco always wants a good cake from Ricardo, so we're just gonna have to give it to him. Thankfully, Ricardo has been working on his cake game, and he is now montaging on... He's montaging on a cliffside, baking cakes on top of that cliffside, so hopefully he actually has some pretty cool cakes, and actually delicious cakes to give to Dracois, because if we don't give a good cake to Dracois, we don't get something blue.
You could bake.
You guys want to see how hard these guys are montaging?
What kind of... Whip, whip, whip. The cream's really coming together.
Slice, 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 slice. Okay, the strawberry.
These guys are montaging hard, so hopefully you guys end up with a good cake for Dracois, because otherwise we're boned.
Awesome. We got.
So right before I get into and talk to Dracois, I'm going to load up a safety save because I need to have Frost up, and I didn't menu that in. So unfortunately, we are going to invalidate this run and load up the safety save. So now that we've loaded up from our safety save, we are ready to give Dracois the cake, and surprisingly, it, in his words, is almost normal. So we end up getting something blue, but Makimona shows up out of nowhere, takes a something for herself, and still wants a boyfriend. So Makimona is the Chapter 3 boss, and this is the hardest boss in the game. Got it!
Makimona, please, listen to us. I don't want to! She's lost her mind. We have to stop her. By force if necessary.
Oh, first try! I couldn't even do that in my world record attempt. So, oh, that is a hard fight. But I get to show off the FAC as well, so all is good in this world. Whew. Alright, let's go home and get wed. Alright, we're almost there. We're getting close to Chapter 4. Chapter 4, as I've mentioned before, is a boss rush. And it turns out that when we go for the boss rush, we go back in time, so we fight Makimona again. But thankfully, we are going to get a menu for much better equipment, so we have a rematch with Makimona, but Makimona's rematch is a cakewalk, so we should be fine.
They're all such good friends.
Yeah. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
Honestly, the real shop vendor's the real MVP. She's telling us thanks for coming, and very genuinely thank everyone. Thank you, everybody, for showing up for this run. It's a wild ride, and I'm very thankful that you guys showed up. So, thanks for coming, guys. Alright, chat, I want you to think about who we're going to marry, Toki or Toa. Keep that in mind, because this boss gauntlet's not going to last very long, but I want you guys to keep that decision in mind, because I'm going to be asking you for help with that decision.
You may now kiss the...
So this is Mobius. Turns out Mobius is actually Sanders, who has gained the power of something 4 to become the final boss. In order to gain her full strength back, Mobius has to go back in time and take all of Toki and Toa's memories, so that way she becomes ultra powerful. Alright, so this is going to be a pretty easy fight, but we still have to silence Makimona.
I'm going to get you.
What was that, little dragon?
I'm not a dragon.
Most certainly not. Even stuck inside someone else's body, I'm really digging this piece of freedom. You get it, right? I'm not the type
Dropped it.
of eternity cooped up in some little piece of
I said this fight was easier, right? Well, it's not a Winterhof run unless I die here.
Let's rewind. Thunder spirit. Ice spirit. Correct.
It's okay if I drop the combo here. I mean, we deal so much damage with the endgame equipment that it doesn't really matter, so... Just gotta make sure I don't drop it again. There we go. Next up, we have to go back and fight Nether Drake, and Nether Drake really hasn't changed all that much. It's the same fight. So, really, you're on rails, all the damage you deal to Nether Drake is fixed, so we don't really have to worry all that much here.
Remember how warm and fuzzy you felt after your little pals gave you the something for?
For some reason, I just like that line, so I just wanted to share that with everyone.
You're so tiny.
Alright, look, just because I'm 5'4" and weigh 100 pounds and oh wait, she's not talking to me.
Don't call me that.
He's way tougher than the Nether Drake we fought before. Well, duh. I'm version 2.0. Where'd that come from all of a sudden? Oh, I just wanted to feel a little more dragon. Oh, so all you care about is the feel of things? Sure. Like the feel of a freshly washed loincloth.
So, shoutouts to Captain Torres of Ace Combat 7, released in 2020, about crisp white sheets. I don't know how that game predicted that, but here we are, and we're running it now, so... I just don't know. Next up is going to be the Robots rematch, and this is kind of the same difficulty as Makimona first fight, because Robots deals a lot of damage to us, so... really we can only take 3 hits from MiniBOSS, so we've got to be careful with the counterattacks. I want to heal just to make sure, because 1 hit and we die.
Dang. Carmen just slid right off him. Admit that I made a point. You shouldn't. Really have to keep running like a robot?
And don't even bother in the first place. You won't get away with this, no matter what, Mobius.
No matter what.
Even if you said that, we'd still need to pay. You'd like.
Not bad.
I think I also neglected to mention the entire arc of Zack and Drake. So, the entire arc of his character is to learn to be less of a pervert in front of his wife. And as you've seen with that last exchange with Roboss, he hasn't learned that lesson. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to learn that arc. I don't know. So this is MiniBOSS Drake, and MiniBOSS Drake is kind of the same as Nether Drake. Alright, you guys ready for some sick tongue twisters? So we're gonna let this dialogue play out, and when everyone says their tongue twister, I'm gonna say my tongue twist. I'm gonna say the tongue twister in this game. Also, shout out to MiniBOSS Drake, who is doing the hustle.
And get married.
He's honestly the true 90s kid, if we're talking about time.
You're really devoted, huh, my brother?
More than I've ever been to anything in my entire life. If I'd been this devoted before, I'm sure I would have been more successful in life.
Same, honestly.
Definite possibility.
Hey, you two, focus on the battle.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
Oh, wait, focus.
What was that? Focus.
Get married. I'm gonna get married.
Listen. You say this? What? Mary married a muscle man named Mac. Made a miraculously merry marriage.
Alright, can you guys say that tongue twister, chat?
Mary married a muscle man named Mac and made a miraculously merry marriage.
Alright, I'm gonna go. Mary married a muscle man named Mac and made a miraculously merry marriage.
Tongue twisters.
Oh, I bet you're just saying.
Okay, Japanese version. Kekkon Koshin Kyoku Ko
Do it.
Kyoko Kyoso Kyoku.
Mary married a muscle.
I can't even say that, and in Japanese, that translates literally to Wedding Symphony Concerto. It's hard to say.
One more time to finish him off.
Mary married a muscle man named Mac and made a miraculous.
Oh, no. Are you alright?
Honestly, I feel filthy for just learning that for the speedrun. And I've been practicing and learning Japanese for the past year.
It's time to end this.
So, I do have to be, I should warn you about this, but we can't bring MiniBOSS Drake's health down to less than half because of plot reasons. But don't worry, thanks to the power of love and the Something 4, the second phase we can bring down MiniBOSS Drake down to 0 health. So right now we just have to waste time. And I figured we might as well have fun, do some tongue twisters in both English and Japanese.
He's not taking any damage anymore.
How?
Alright, so it's time for a rematch with MiniBOSS Drake, which is the same fight as Nether Drake, so there is no differing attack pattern, it's just the same two: fast fireball, slow rain of fireballs. It's pretty easy once you get the mix into it. So this is pretty much our break before the final form of MiniBOSS. So, we got some time to relax, just chill, watch MiniBOSS Drake do some K-pop dance routines in front of us.
An act of desperation. It's only a matter of coming to one
It's also worth noting that MiniBOSS Drake's voice actor is Norio Wakamoto in the Japanese version. I don't know who voices him in the English version, but I just thought you guys might appreciate that knowledge.
Focus on the battle at hand.
Okay.
sure about this? Who's gonna disappear before too long, you know.
Danny, go to hell.
I bet you would think how lucky you are to marry two girls at once, weren't you?
No way! How could I ever?
There you are.
Fine, I lied.
What do you think about that, Missy?
Got him. Alright, so the final boss is not all that difficult. It is spread out between two phases. So the final boss has 400 health total between... But we end up having breaks between every 200,000 health. Alright, chat, who do you like better, Toki or Toa? Press 1 for Toki, press 2 for Toa.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
I need to do this myself. I can't imagine forcing either of you to choose your final destiny.
Oh, it's very
I'm going to make the choice.
tight. I think it's really slim. Alright, I'm closing my eyes. 3, 2, 1. Okay, who did I choose?
I've had just about enough.
I mean, it was a 50-50 split, guys. Like, we had to let Chance do it.
I'm just settled in. I feel it. Right there. You've got nothing left. You ready for this? Are you ready for I swear, we'll win this final battle.
This fight can be a little bit difficult because you take 3 hits, you die. So, unfortunately, MiniBOSS has a 3-hit combo. So, you've got to counter it, otherwise you end up dying. Come on.
What do you care? You're gonna be gone by the time it's all over anyway. What's the point of you trying so hard now?
Alright, phase 1 over. Phase 2 is largely the same, but I just have to set up silence again. I'm gonna take it slow here just so I win this.
So you're a bit older and wiser, or maybe it just runs in you.
Alright, time is gonna come up at the end of the battle results screen when the fade to black happens. Oh my gosh, I jinxed it. If you notice that I'm entering the menu 3 times in a row, that's because I have to prime the menu. The menu has this weird thing where if you press it once, it instantly gets out of the menu, so I have to prime it at least once or twice. That's why I'm having difficulty using a macaroon. It's okay. We're fine, we're fine. This is the last fight, so...
Time to
I'm
settle
ready to
this.
go. Let's rewind.
Request to change the estimate to 2 minutes and 2 hours and 8 minutes, please.
Ready for this?
It's gonna make sense when you see the battle results.
Are you ready for this?
I don't know what to say.
Got it.
Toki, I swear, we'll win this final battle.
Cheeky gunshot.
What do you care? You're gonna be gone by the time it's all over anyway. What's the point of you trying so hard now?
I want them to be happy. They're both so important to me. Johnny says, it's a privilege for us to be able to help others find happiness.
Okay, time coming up real soon.
And now, I understand exactly.
Oh, that's cheeky.
Yep, as expected.
Oh, that is time, viewers at home.
Fine. I'll be
Alright, so thank you for everyone watching. Shout out to Adamanches, shout out to Professor Palmer and everyone who helped bring this run to light. Shout out to you, the viewers, to this game. You now have the Time and Eternity curse. You now know this game exists. Shout out to my wife Saboon. And we've got to do one more menu before we end. And that is to not follow that character arc. Let's just have some fun with our new wife with no
Have
memories.
some fun.
some fun.
Alright, we're done here. Thank you everyone again. This is Winterhof signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of this run.